All right, I'm going to demonstrate the mock-up of this corrugated E-flute structure. This is for the tool kit, and it's a DTC package, direct to consumer. So this is the outer wrap, and we have the mailing label on here. So I'm just going to demonstrate how this works, and then I'm going to go into how I fabricated it from the die line. So this would come, and then there would be some kind of, branded tape or some kind of closure here on the back that would be, a little bit thought about. So by removing this, we can then access this outer part here, which protects our structure. So this is our E-flute structure, and I have this sliding sleeve on it to open and close this. So this is to accommodate a lot of the tools that we use to fabricate our mock-ups. So actually I'm going to fabricate a mock-up and use some of the tools that are in here at the same time. So this is just for demonstration purposes. This would probably have some graphics or maybe branding on it, however that might work. So how this functions is by sliding this sleeve down to the bottom half. We have the top half here that hinges open, and then we start to expose some of our components that are inside. So I have two compartments. I have a front compartment here, and I have this back compartment. So I've integrated, I don't want to turn this upside down, but there's this little tab here in the bottom that goes in and it engages into the back part. Let me get that into position. And that holds this nice and tight here at the bottom. And then to release that, there's a little tab on the inside here to open that and bring that back out. So now it can sit on the desk and you can keep it out and use it. And it's actually a functional organizer. We have everything inside. So what I've accommodated here, I have the glue, I have the tape in the back here, and then I have some of our templates. I just picked some circle templates, French curves, and 30, 60, and 45-degree triangle. That goes in the back. The tape dispenser, it's got this unique little component that I made on the inside. I was really bothered by the fact that this had this wasted space. So when you put it in there, I wanted to put something in there. So I made this little box structure with this round place on the front. And this accommodates a 10-foot tape measure. And there's also a little bit of space in here for some other components. I have little nuances all around the whole package where other things can fit in. I wanted to leave this somewhat customizable. So that's why I'm not making specific little dividers and cubbies and places to put specific things. I'm kind of leaving it open. So that's why in the back here, in this kind of file format where we can stick templates in the back, you could put sandpaper and a variety of different things in there. And then also have a little bit of space here. Maybe someone wants to use a glue stick or something like that. So that's that one compartment in the back. And then this compartment in the front, I have all these other pieces. I got some pencils and pens, eraser, pencil sharpener, X-Acto knife, X-Acto blades. I have our scoring stick, and I even have a little beam compass in there. So that takes care of those two chambers. And then it's really easy to reassemble and put back. Put this back up, and you slide the sleeve up, and we're all set. So I made that in a couple of different finishes. I was experimenting, so I have another black version, which looks really, really nice. I'm planning on putting a graphic here, perhaps, that kind of lists all the components that are in there. And then you can see this locking tab that comes in the back. I have a little piece that pushes in there that allows that to engage. And then the sleeve comes up, and we can tuck the top in there, and it's ready to go. So it's very lean, about 1.5 inches. You could fit it in a backpack or a bag and carry it with you. So that's the structure that I'm going to demonstrate. And this is the die line that I did in the last tutorial. I have a tutorial on how I developed the die line based on all the measurements of these components. So I tiled this. You can see I have it in pieces. So I just taped it together in several locations. This way I guarantee that it's exactly the right size. So I bring it in to Illustrator, and I just tile it and print out the pieces, and I trim them, put them together, and then I double check my dimensions, because it's very critical that the dimensions be accurate, so when we make the mock-up, it's going to function and work correctly. So that's my tiled die line. And then I just take that and I use repositionable spray mount, and I put it on the E-flute board. With fluted material, we have the grain direction. The flutes are running in a certain direction. So we're either folding with the flutes or against the flutes. In most situations, we want to orient ourselves perfectly aligned with that. For this design, I wanted my fluting direction to run this way. So I have these vertical folds are with the flute. They're a little weaker than when you fold against the fluting. So I wanted my pivot points, like this hinge area here, and then the flap area in the front. I want those that go against the flute, so they're really nice and strong. So if you can keep those against the flute, you get a nice strong fold there. And the other ones are going in the other direction. So this is one of the tools actually in the kit. This is the scoring dowel that we use with the score board for SBS board. And I'm going to use the edge here, this back part, slightly rounded, because we don't want to dent the material. So I'm going to run scores with the fluting, but do them lightly. We don't want to tear the material. So with the flute, since I'm going in between, there's air cavities there. If I press too hard, I'll tear. So I'm just going to take it nice and easy and just get that to fold a little bit. And I'm going to just encourage that fold to happen right now while I'm doing the score. So I'm doing it lightly, not too hard, and I can get these to fold up. Okay, so that's all my vertical folds. Just want to make sure they're breaking. I think they call it breaking. We don't want to break it, but we want to make the fold go. So now I think I've done a few of these scores already. All right, maybe not. These are against the fluting. Here we can press harder. We really want to get those to fold nice. So we can press quite hard and it won't tear as easily as with going with the flutes. So these I can even feel when you fold these up, they are pretty stiff. So we want to hyper fold those, especially in this little drawer area, because we want that to close nicely. I think I have these folded. Yep, I did those. So some of these folds are going to go in, I think I did this one already, yeah. So this one's, that's the main hinge area. So we have all the scores on this one side. So we have to consider some of these folds, especially this main fold here in the middle that brings down the top, it's going to fold in the other direction. So we want to make sure that's a really strong fold. And we want to do that with this little compartment lid here also. So what I like to do is come onto the other side and score it here also. So quite often I'll just make like a little tick mark, so when I lay it flat, I know exactly where that fold is going to be. And I'll just dent it on this side also. Now we can go pretty firm here because this is, again, oops, the wrong end. There we go. This is against the fluting. It'll give us a really nice strong fold there. There we go. Now we can fold this in this direction and make sure that works. This is so much easier to do when it's flat. It's very hard to do once we set it up, so it's good to get those folds working for us. I'm going to go back the other way. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so this is the die line that I had done. I just used the repositional spray mount, so this should come off pretty easily. Okay, so there's our part all ready to go. So this construction's a little crazy because I have that whole tube construction that I talked about where we glue things into a tube. So I have two tubes. It's all one part, but I'm gluing it in two sections. I want to glue this part across to this glue tab right here. And that looks like that's lining up nicely. And then I want to glue this part over to this side. Get that to line up. And then that's going to fit inside of this part. So it's got two gluing operations, and probably in production we would do those separately so we can get all that to line up. It's a little tight here. It's not bad. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Okay, that should be fine. I'm just checking alignment, see how everything's going to fit, if it's nice and square. So I think that should work. Just going to force that over just a little. Get this to fit like that. There we go. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to use a little tape to hold this so I don't pull it apart as I'm moving around. Just checking this alignment's good. Okay. Perfect. So again, I have that extra little step that I did here. So when this glues together, that's going to sit on top here. So I have that little extra material. So that's gonna work. Okay, great. So let's do the first tube. Which is going to go in this direction. Get that material out of the way. I'm just going to hold that right there. Make sure that needs to line up that way. There we go. So I'm just going to put some tape on here to hold that while I move the rest of it around. Okay, so that's good. And then this piece is going to come over to this direction, and we're going to put this here. This is just a little off. I'm just going to try to push that over slightly. Okay. Okay, that looks good. Alright, so this is the glue tab, this little triangular piece here. Like that. And then we'll push that right into position. I'm just squeezing that over a little. Alright, that should be fine. So I do try to clean up a little bit of the excess glue that squeezes out, because we might see that on the material. So again, I'm going to hold this with some tape, make sure it stays in position. Okay. Alright, that looks good. So quite often I'll let that sit for a moment before I start manipulating. So I'm going to open up the tubes and things like that. But let's just see if I can get away with that now and we can continue the process. Alright, so that's popping open, which we don't want. Alright, so I'm going to have to hold this down in the open position so I can open the tube so we can keep moving along. So slight change of plans. I'm just going to pull this piece out so I can get this to lock in here. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to hold that a little to get that to stay. That looks good. Okay. Alright, so this is where our little 45s come in. We're going to push these in and set this in here. So I'm going to get the other glue. I think I had that was the school glue. So that was not as strong, so I think this is going to work a little better. Okay. All right, that's good. Okay, so we're going to do the bottom, and we have to get that to, those little 45s will come in and give us a nice flat surface. 45s being these little cuts right here. So when I bring all of these down and this one, they're going to meet and be all flat, and this part will come down and sit on top of all of those and sit there nicely. So we do have this little tab area that's going to go in, and that looks like that's going to fit really well. So I'll show a little bit more about that detail, why that really helps us for that locking tab. Okay, just making sure everything's holding. Okay, so we're good. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on these. And I'll put it on this entire tab here. So when I bring down that overflap, it'll make contact with all of these and hold it really nice and square. Be a really, really strong seam there. So here's where I'm checking for square. I want that to come in nice and tight. I want that to look really good. I forgot to put this in, so let me get that in there. Okay, excellent. Very nice. So this tape will help hold this nice and square. And I'm going to go take a look at this from the inside and see how I'm doing. Wow, it's really good. It's hard to see in there. The little 45s they're in the corners, and I got that shadow. I don't know if I can see in there. You see how the 45s are lining up? That's working really, really well. So I'm just going to use the wooden dowel, make sure that's holding down nice and tight. And I think we should be in pretty good shape down there. Looks good. Excellent. Perfect. Sometimes I'll tape these ends in, but these look like they're holding really, really well. So it's good. So that's 1/2 of a tube. Tube meaning that this is chasing all the way around and gluing upon itself. Now we have the other end, which is the smaller end. And it's going to be the same kind of operation. And it's going to come in, lock in like this. I have some tape ready, so that's good. That looks. Now this little tab area, when I open this up, there's a place here I don't want glue. So let's just sort of mark that and say don't put glue there. I did that once by accident, and I glued that little tab down, which we don't want to have happen. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to bring this to the front, make sure it's nice and square. Square meaning that the ends look like they're lined up. So that's moving a little. I want that to line up. Okay, that looks good. And we'll do this end. Okay, and this is sitting here nicely like that, so that's good. Let's check the. Okay, this end is popping up slightly, so I'm just going to put a little bit of tape just to squish that down a little. This one looks perfect. That's that little tolerance where I have that inside flap is going in, and this one's coming over, so that's lining up really nice and tight without any bulging and stuff like that. So that looks good. So I'm going to take a look from the inside. The inside looks great. Wow, these 45s are working out a lot better than some of the other ones that I've done. Again, the 45s, those little corners in there that are lining up. So it's good. Okay. So that's good. This is going to tuck down in here, and that's holding nice and tight. Got a little bit of tolerance here. It's not pushing on the material too much, tolerance being in these two corners. So, okay, that looks pretty good. So that's setting that up and getting that to work. And then here's this little tab that I was talking about. So that piece of material that I folded in created this nice radius here. and it pushed in, and that material wants to push this way. So what that does is that pushes against this tab and keeps it locked in nice and tight, keeping this really closed. I did one tab where I just went straight back. Of course that's not going to work because this material wants to pull out, so I just wanted to pull the tab out. But having this tab go in and turn at 90 degrees and being held in by that little internal tab, it locks really, really well. And one of the key features of this box that I like, and this is what I went after, is when this is open, I don't have any flaps or tabs or anything. Normally when you open a box, you have some tuck flaps and dust flaps and things like that. And it kind of looks unruly. I didn't want this to look like an open box. I wanted it to look like a, a beautiful organizer that you would keep out, and you keep your supplies in there and you would use it. And it's very efficient, but then very easy to fold up and take with you. So that's the structure. So again, refer to the other tutorials for this. I have the one of developing the die line, and I have the one of building all the products inside, and then I'm going to do another one where I'm going to do a 3D rendering of this with all the parts inside.